Okay, hey guys, got a few of you online at the moment. I have disabled the YouTube chat for today's lesson. That's just because I want to just focus on delivering the content, and then at the end, after I've finished, I will open up the chat in here. I have enabled the forum for a little while as well, but I will close down the forum for when I'm doing the lesson as well. And then after I've finished, when I ask for questions, then I'll open up the forum and the YouTube chat. So we'll start very soon, in a couple of minutes. All you need to do, we got a few people saying hi in the forums, which is fantastic. So all I want you to do is just say hi. This isn't an official stream because it's not a double period. This is just a special one because we missed out on the lesson yesterday. I'm just going to cover the stuff about compound interest and just briefly go over the simple interest stuff as well. And as I said just a second ago, I will close the forum while I'm delivering the content. So for the 20 minutes or so, or half an hour that it will take for me to go through the work today, I will close the forum, and then for the last 10 minutes or so of the lesson, I'll reopen the forum, reopen the chat in YouTube so that I can monitor it, and so people aren't, dissing each other and saying wrong things and inappropriate things to each other, which I couldn't check the other day because I was too busy concentrating on my screen. All right, so we'll start very soon. All I'll ask is, I think Annie's just started a new thing in the forum. If you could just not create a new section, Annie, but just write your hi comment in the one that I've started already. So I'm just going to delete your one there. Otherwise, the forum's going to get cluttered with lots of stuff. Okay, it's 10:40. We've got 15 viewers according to my YouTube live stream. So we will begin. I'm just going to go into here, click a few things, and talk about stuff from yesterday. My computer's a bit laggy, but what I might try is I might try streaming from a different internet source and see if that makes a difference or not. But we'll see how we go. All right, ready to go. 3, 2, 1. All right, hey guys. Now, if I look to the screen to my right, it just means I'm looking at a different monitor that I've got in front of me. So it's not like I'm just staring into space all the time, but I'm just looking at a screen which has got information about how the stream's going and stuff. So at the moment, the stream is yellow, which means it's not. Oh, it's gone red. Red means it's going to be very glitchy and very laggy, but we'll try and persist with it. So hopefully you guys can hear me okay. And let's just get into it. So here I've got the notes from the other day, and I've updated it a little bit. So I'm just going to quickly talk about simple interest again, and I'm going to just read through this and explain simple interest before we get on to compound interest today. So if you have to borrow money from a bank, normally that's called a loan, the bank doesn't give you the money for free. So you have to pay the money back plus a little bit extra. And this extra amount is called interest. So banks can also pay you interest if you deposit or if you save your money at the bank. So this becomes an incentive so that you save more and more money. So this form of savings is often called an investment. So people invest their money and they give their money to the bank and they don't take their money out for a period of time, and then the bank rewards them and gives them interest, which is like additional money. But most of the time we deal with interest with these loans and credit cards and things like that. So that's where we are trying to buy stuff with money that we might not have initially right at the very beginning. So we get a loan or a credit card and we get what we want, whether it be a car or a house or something like that, but then we have to pay that money back. It's not just paying the money back by itself. We need to pay a bit more than just the money that gets loaned to us. So that's called interest, and interest is calculated in two methods. The first one is called the simple interest way, and this is what we talked about yesterday. Actually, not yesterday, on Tuesday. And all these methods are a formula, an equation, where you put in information into your formula and outspits the result, outspits the answer, outspits the interest for this one. So this formula is set up like this. It says I stands for the simple interest, equals P. P stands for the principal, or the amount of money or a loan or investment. So this is your dollar amount in the question that you are either loaning or you are investing. R stands for the interest rate as a percentage. So often we want to, I just got a notification here that Yanku can't watch live. So all I can say, Yanku, is just go onto YouTube. And let's see if I can, I'll be right back, guys. I'm not going anywhere, I'm just here, but I'm just going to type Yanku a message in the forum. Sorry about this. Computer's very slow. This is not ideal. Okay, maybe someone else can just type, because I'm having no success whatsoever trying to get my computer to scroll down the screen even, which is not a good sign for later on. Okay, so I'm just going to type a quick comment here and then I'll be right back with you guys. So actually I might just direct message in, might be the best way. Actually I might close up the forum as well. So sorry guys, I'm going to close the forum. And I might close that tab as well. If I close down my whole internet browser, that might be good as well. I'm just going to direct message Yanku. Oh wow, this is so laggy. Like I type in something and it doesn't pop up on the screen. Okay, I'm not gonna waste any more time on this. So I really apologize to Yanku. I hope he can get onto the stream somehow, but I can't contact him through that. So I'm going to close that down. That's going to free up some memory, I hope. And then we're going to go back to live screen. All right, we're back, guys. Okay, so hopefully I've made my computer run a bit smoother, because I've taken out quite a lot of memory there by closing down my Internet Explorer. But anyway, where were we? So we got to this simple interest formula the other day, and we had simple interest was equal to P times R times T. And I was just going through what each of these things mean. R stands for the interest rate as a percentage, and T stands for the time of the loan or the investment. So normally it's the number of years for that thing, okay? So we had an example, and the example that we did the other day was Cynthia deposits. So deposit means gives the money to the bank to hold on to. So deposits $3,500 into a bank for 3 years. The bank pays her simple interest at 5.25% per annum. Per annum is just another way of saying per year. So the interest rate is calculated per year. How much interest does she receive? So in this question, we're trying to work out I, the simple interest, and we get given the principal, which is the amount of money that she deposits, $3,500. The interest rate is 5.25%, and the time is 3 years. And all we do to work out the simple interest on this investment is to multiply the principal, the interest rate, and the time together. So 3,500 times 0.0525 times by 3 gets you the interest. So the interest that Cynthia gets on top of her deposit, so she's given the bank $3,500, the bank then rewards her and says, okay, thank you for giving us your money. We'll look after it and we'll give you this extra bonus as well, $183.75. Another way you can calculate it by using the percent button on your calculator is 3,500 times by 5.25. And if you use the percent button on your calculator, you don't have to convert the interest rate to a decimal. You can just put in 5.25 and then put the percent button. So in my calculator, to get the percent button, it's Shift and then the open bracket button. So Shift, open bracket, and then times by 3, you get the same interest amount. So then the next part of the question says, didn't do this the other day, but I'm just adding it on. So if Cynthia did not take out any money, if she did not withdraw any money from her account over the 3 years, what's her balance? In other words, how much money is in her account after 3 years if she doesn't take any money out? So what that's going to be is going to be the principal, how much money she had to start with that she deposited into the bank, plus the simple interest. So it's the $3,500 plus the interest, plus the $183.75. Okay, so all up, she has $3,683.75. That's how much money is in her bank, and that's called the balance. That's how much money that she will have after 3 years. Okay, here's a second example that we kind of covered the other day. So Bob took out a car loan of $25,000. He ended up paying simple interest of $7,500 over 5 years. What was the interest rate? So again, we have the formula. We have that as our starting point. The interest this time is given to us in the question. The simple interest is said to be $7,500. The principal is $25,000. That's the amount of the car loan, okay? The interest rate is what we're trying to work out, and the time for this question is 5 years. It mentions 5 years there, okay? So if we substitute these numbers into our formula and try and work out what the missing value is, try and work out what R is, this is what we do. So the interest rate is $7,500. Simple interest, sorry. Simple interest is $7,500. The principal is $25,000. The interest rate is the thing we're trying to work out, and 5 is the number of years, is the t value. Okay, it's the t value in our formula. So if we're trying to solve this equation and get the interest rate by itself, then we need to divide both sides by the 25,000 and the times by 5. That way they can cancel out on the right-hand side over here. And on the left-hand side, we've got our calculation that we're doing. So we're going 7,500 divided by 25,000 times by 5. And if you are doing this on your calculator, I would encourage you to use your fraction button and write exactly how I've written it like that. And you get an R value of 0.06, which equates to an interest rate of 6% per annum. That's what 0.06 means, okay? So hopefully that clears up a few things from the other day, because you may have missed the lesson or may have jumped on late onto YouTube and missed the beginning bit. But that's simple interest. Simple interest is the easier way of calculating interest. Not many banks, if any, will actually use simple interest. They all use compound interest, which is what we're going to talk about today. But at least this is a starting point to get you an idea of how interest works and so forth. Okay, so today we're going to look at compound interest. Okay, so compound interest is a little bit different. So the way we're going to start this off, and I am a little bit worried that this is going to be very laggy, so I do apologize in advance, is we've got a bit of a scenario here. So Alice is borrowing, or she borrows $100,000 for her business, and the interest is compounded annually at 7.5%. And I'll explain what that means through this example and through this table that we've got here. Now she's got this loan for 10 years and we're going to investigate. So we're basically going to learn what compound interest is, compare it to simple interest, and figure out a way of getting to how much money she has to pay back at the end of the 10 years in a quicker way than having to do this table method all the time. The table method's great to show you what's happening, but it's not a very short way. It's a very long way to work things out, and I would encourage you in a test or something like that not to do it using the table method, but I'm just doing this because I'm showing you what compound interest is and how it works. Okay, so I'm just going to choose a pen. I'm going to go with green and see how we go. All right, so this table has got 4 columns. The first column is saying the start of the year, and here are all the years. So this is the start of year number 1, okay, the year number 1 of our loan, and we're going to go all the way up to 10, okay? So I'll get the mouse cursor. So start of the year is the first thing, so all these numbers go up to 10. Balance is the second column, and the balance is going to tell us how much is her loan at the beginning of the year. So at the beginning of the first year, she borrows $100,000, so that's her balance. That's how much she has to. That's how much she's loaned. Okay. The next column is how much we're going to work out interest, and the way we're going to work out the interest is we're going to multiply the balance amount, how much is in this column here, by 7.5%, because that's what the interest rate is. Okay, so we're going to multiply the balance by 7.5%. So the first calculation we're going to do is we're going to go times by, see how big this is going to be, 7.5%. And when we do that, so when we get the balance, the $100,000, and we multiply it by 7.5%, it gets an interest of $7,500. $7,500. Now, the amount on the loan at the end of the year is the balance at the beginning of the year plus the interest. So I'll say that again. It's the balance at the beginning of the year plus the interest. So we're going to add these two values together, and when we do that, we'll get the amount at the end of the year as being $107,500. So what Alice's loan started at $100,000, but because she hasn't paid anything back or anything like that, at the end of the year, she now has to pay back $107,500. The loan has gone up. She's got to pay back this extra amount. But she's not going to pay anything back for 10 years. She's going to see how much money this loan grows after 10 years. We're going to do the same method. So at the start of year 2 over here, the balance is whatever the amount of money on her loan is at the end of the previous year. So the end of the previous year is $107,500. So that becomes the balance, how much money is on her loan at the beginning of year 2. So I'll put that in here. So it's $107,500. Next up, we're going to work out the interest on this amount. So we're going to say, let's work out what 7.5% of interest on $107,500 is. So we're going to go times by 7.5% again equals, and if you've got your calculators there and you want to test this out for yourself, see if you can get this number, $8,062.50. $8,062.50, like that. Okay. So now the amount of money for her loan at the end of the year 2 is going to be the interest for that year plus the balance at the start of the year. So we were $107,500. Now we're going to add on $8,062.50 to that. So when we plus those two values together, so the balance plus the interest, you get $115,562.50. Okay, which then becomes the balance for the start of year 3. So year 3 is down here, and we've got the start balance over here is $115,000. It's the same as this, $115,562.50. Okay, so we're going to do the process again and again. So here we go. So the interest this time for year number 3 is we want to multiply the balance by 7.5% again. So we're going to go times by 7.5% equals. This time you might have to do a little bit of rounding when you do this calculation. So I got 8,667.19. Always round money question to 2 decimal places. And then the amount at the end of the year is the balance plus the interest again. So we're adding these two columns, the two middle columns together to get the amount for the end of the year. So when I add those two columns together, I get $124,229.69. Okay, all right. As you are aware, this process is taking a long time, right? So if we had to fill in the rest of the table, I'm actually going to not fill in the rest of the table, because if we were to do that, it would take up the remainder of the lesson and we'd use up all this time and not get anywhere. It would just be doing the same thing repeatedly over and over again. So what we're going to do is show you a better, more efficient way to work out how much money is going to be owed in this loan at the end of the 10 years. That's our goal. We want to work out the total in this cell here right at the end. Okay, and the way we're going to do it is we're going to use a formula. And this formula is a little bit more complicated than the simple interest formula because we are doing compound interest. And the way compound interest works is that after each time period, so in this case it's compounded annually, after every year the interest is calculated and then gets added on to the balance and repeated like this, okay? And we just keep doing this process. After every year the interest is calculated and gets added on to the total. Compound interest grows the interest quicker than simple interest, and I'll explain that after we've got our total and we can compare the two of them. In fact, no, let's do that now. Let's imagine if this was a simple interest question, what the difference would be just after 3 years. So just after 3 years, what the difference would be if it was a simple interest question. So I'm just going to digress just for a second and talk about simple interest again. So simple interest is when the interest is just calculated once over the entire time. And the way it works is this: you get the principal, which is, so I equals, just write the formula again, equals P times R times T. Okay, so simple interest I is going to equal the principal, which is $100,000. Another zero missing, yep, times the interest rate, and we'll do the percentage version, so 7.5%. And after 3 years, we're just going to compare it to this one, okay? We're just going to compare it to the third year in the table, so we're just going to go times by 3. Again, if you've got your calculators there, you might want to follow along and see if you can type this into your calculator and get the answer before I write down what it is. So when I did it on my calculator, I got 22,500. Now this is just the interest. So if we wanted to work out how much on the simple interest loan it would be, we need to add this to our principal, our initial amount of money. So the total amount after 3 years would be the 100,000 plus 22,500. Like that, okay? And this would mean we can now compare the two. So 122,500. So my point is, we've got these two interest calculations. We've got, whoops, undo that, strike and line. I can't do a highlighting thing. That's okay. We've got, this is our compound interest amount, and this is our simple interest amount. And you notice that the compound value is quite a bit higher. In fact, it's about $1,700 more than what the simple interest would be. So think about it from a loan point of view. If you had a loan and after 3 years you only had to pay back this amount, you'd be you would prefer that, but the banks use this one because they want you to pay back more money. They're saying we use compound interest, so we're going to charge interest at more often, and because of that, you're going to have to pay back more money. Okay, so that's the main difference between compound interest and simple interest. Compound interest, the interest is calculated more often. Simple interest, this interest calculation is only done once. Okay, so let's go back to the table idea, and we don't want to have to fill in the rest of the rows in the table. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but that would just take forever, like a really long time. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a formula. And this formula is quite well known in terms of a lot of applications to it. And we use this formula quite a lot. Okay, so this formula has some more letters, which I'm going to introduce what they are. So the first one, instead of it being an I to start with, I'm going to say A equals. And A gives you the total amount of the loan or investment. That includes the principal and the interest included. So this formula, we don't have to add on that interest to the principal anymore. This is going to be an all-in-one thing. Okay, this is going to tell us how much we have to pay back on our loan at the end of the time period. Okay, so P, I'll write down what each of the letters mean in a second as well. P, and then we've seen P already in the simple interest formula, and then we've got a bracket, and then we've got 1 inside the bracket, and then plus, so this is the number 1, not an I. So it's a number 1 plus, and then it's an R with a percentage. I'll write that in there. So that stands for interest rate. And then up the top, we're going to go to the power T. So it's a little bit different to simple interest. The principal is still like what it is in simple interest in terms of what that means. The R is just like what the interest rate is in simple interest, and the T is like the time period in simple interest. So we're using the same letters, but we've introduced a number, a 1 in our formula. Okay, so let's just write down what each of these letters mean. Okay, so where A equals the total amount of loan to repay at the end of the time period. So that's going to be our answer. So A is going to be our answer down here. A is going to be after 10 years when we put in the values into here, we're going to find out how much this loan is for. It's going to be big. It's going to be massive. Okay. P, we understand that, like from before with simple interest, that stands for the principal. And think of that as the amount of money that you're loaning at the start. Okay, so in this case, it's the $100,000. And R is the interest rate as a percentage. So if you wanted to convert this to a decimal, you could. So if we wanted to convert the interest rate to a percentage decimal, you could, but we're going to keep using the percent sign because that's easy on our calculators. And time is the last one. So this is the number of, so we'll say time to start with, but then I'll introduce something on Monday when we go through a few harder examples of this. And years. Okay, so far so good. Just going to scroll up a little bit. Too far. Very laggy. Sorry guys, I do apologize. Okay, so in our example, let's do this. The principal. So A is the thing we're trying to figure out. So after 10 years, we want to work out what the total amount of our loan is. The principal in our example was $100,000. That was our loan starting amount, so much Alice borrowed. The interest rate is 7.5%. That was given to us at the start as well. And the time of this loan was 10 years. Okay, let's put these numbers, let's put these values into our formula and work out how much money is owed on this loan after 10 years. Okay, so we're going to say A is going to equal P. Well, P is the $100,000. That's the starting amount for our loan. So I'll put that in my formula, $100,000. Then it's going to go open bracket. then next in my formula is the number 1. And because the reason why there's a number 1 here is because we're actually dealing with an increase of a percentage amount. So the 1 plus the 7.5% is saying we are increasing by 7.5%. That's what this principal is going up by. It's increasing by 7.5%. So it's the same as adding 7.5 to 100% and converting that to a decimal. But I'm just going to write it in like this. 1 plus 7.5%. And then I'm going to go close bracket. And then the power is going to be the number of years for our loan, which is 10. All right, so I'm going to give you a moment and see if you can type that in on your calculators and see if you can come up with an answer. See if you can use the right buttons. If you wanted to, you could convert the 7.5% to a decimal, which is, I'll write that in the next line of working out while you're doing it on your calculator. You could do this, 1.075 times 10. Because what I've done here is I've gone 1, and then I've converted this to a decimal, and that's just 0.075, and I added it to the 1. So I've got that. But you don't have to. You can just type that in the calculator in one line and see if you get this. Money. It's a money question, so I'm going to put a dollar amount at the start. $206,103.16. Always round money questions to 2 decimal places. So I'll write in here 2 decimal places, 2 DP, because you would have had lots of other numbers after that as well. All right, so what does this mean? This means that Alice started with a $100,000 loan for her business. She decided not to pay any money back, and over the 10 years, the loan has grown quite fast. It's actually doubled, more than doubled. So if we were to fill in this table and keep going with each row in this table and working out the numbers as we progress, if we kept doing like that, keep going, this amount here after 10 years would be $206,103.16. So it's going to highlight that and see if this works this time. So that is the amount of the loan has grown to. That's quite a lot. That's why compound interest is kind of bad if you've got loans, because you're going to have to pay back a lot more money to the bank. But on Monday, I'll actually explain to you what banks actually do. They don't actually compound annually like this question is. They actually work out the amount of interest on a loan daily, which means for a 10-year problem, they're doing interest calculations every single day, which means the total amount you have to pay back at the end of the 10 years is even more than the $206,103 thing here. I'll explain that on Monday. But for today, I'm going to give you some questions to practice. And this is from, so you have to go into OneNote. On the side here, you can see that. I'll just jump over that section for a little bit. I will do the same thing I did the other day, which is I will highlight the questions for you to do. So this is 3F. This example here is kind of a little bit of what we're covering in our notes today. And just jumping down to here. This example I will talk about on Monday as well. So sometimes you want to work backwards to try and work something out. So for example, you might want to work out what the principal was. You get given the total amount at the end and you want to work backwards to work out the principal and that kind of stuff. So sometimes you want to compare it to simple interest as well. All right, so this is a reversing one, reversing the process to find the original amount. So I'll cover this on Monday, but if you wanted to have a read through all of that, you can to get an idea. And so the questions I want you to do is I will highlight them right now. So question number 1, let's have a look at this question. Yeah, so all of question 1 and all of question 2, because I don't see it till Monday, so go and do a bit of questions for me. And let's go to, I might just go, so all of question 1, all of question 2. Let's go to question 3. It does go over the page as well. Let's go all the way to 5 for Monday. Actually, no, one more. Go to 6. Okay, so can you do all those 6 questions for Monday? And if you've got any problems, you know that you can just contact me in the sector forum. And we've got about 8 minutes to go in the lesson before I've got to jump over to my other class. Actually, probably got less than that because I do need to set up for my other class. So just 3 minutes. So what I'll do is I'm going to jump over to the forum, and this is how slow my computer is, guys. You get to see how laggy it is. This is my sector loading. Should do a speed test to see how bad it is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the live stream now, and if you've got any questions, jump over to the forum. I'll leave the forum open for a bit, and I'll try my best. I do have a class slot right now, so I'm not going to be able to get back to your forum questions straight away, but yeah, I do still encourage you to write your questions, and I'll try my best to answer them later on today and get back to you. Okay, so yeah, thanks very much, guys. I will see you next week.